Welcome, astrology lovers. You are watching Astrology Hub TV, and I want to thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Walsh, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub. And Astrology Hub TV is a weekly show dedicated to helping you explore your connection to the cosmos and how cultivating this connection can help you live a more empowered, fulfilling, and vibrant life. We're here live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. If you would like to be alerted when we go live, you can sign up for live alerts by clicking the link in the chat, and there's a link above this video that you can click as well. Okay, we're going to get started with our guest, Maurice Fernandez, here very soon. But before we do that, I wanted to just alert you all that today's moon is a supermoon and an eclipse. The Cancer New Moon article went live on Tuesday, so please be sure to check it out. This is a free resource for you to tune into the energy of the new or full moon. And we gather great quotes from astrologers from all over the world to help you really understand what the themes are and how to work with them. And this is number one of 3 eclipses this summer. And I have been amazed over the last few years to learn about how powerful eclipses really are. Eclipses are often referred to as portals of transformation that provide a huge opportunity for us to make shifts both personally and collectively. And so to tune into this energy and really kick off this eclipse season with some intention and some consciousness, Donna Woodwell and I are going to be live tomorrow with a free webinar for all of you about this eclipse season and about why looking at eclipses in the chart is so important and powerful. So you can join that. The link to join it is in the chat and in the description of the video. It will be recorded, but we will only send the recording out to those who register. So if you're interested in this topic, if you're interested in learning more about eclipses, make sure you register whether you can make the time or not. It is tomorrow, Friday, July 13th, from 12 to 1:30 Pacific, 3 to 4:30 Eastern. Sorry, 12 to 1:30 Pacific, 3 to 4:30 Eastern, tomorrow, Friday, July 13th. Okay, we'd love to see you there. All right, so today we are live talking about one of my favorite topics, which is the power of marketing for astrologers. And this is such an important topic, and there's a lot of things for us to explore here. I know this can bring up some kind of like icky feelings for some people in terms of marketing and what it is and how we use it. So Maurice and I are going to explore all of that. And the truth is, if we're going to get the word out about astrology, then you and me have to know how to reach people, how to connect with them where they are. And this is such an amazing time to be armed with the tools of marketing so that we can do this in an effective and conscious way. So in this talk with President of the Organization for Professional Astrologers and a professional astrologer for over 25 years, Maurice Fernandez, you're going to learn why it's so critical that astrologers know how to market their services effectively and how to find professional support so that you're not doing this alone, because it's a lot. And then tips to becoming a full-time astrologer for those of you who have the dream out there of becoming an astrologer and making this your livelihood and making that actually work. We'll have lots of tips for you. So today's episode is for you if you want to become a professional astrologer, if you are already a professional astrologer but you want to take your practice to the next level, and for you if you think marketing is a dirty word and often avoid it, but you want to grow your practice anyways. So we'll be covering all of that. And before we dive in, I'd love to tell you a little bit more about our guest today, Maurice Fernandez. Maurice has been practicing astrology for over 25 years. His holistic approach is intended to bridge consciousness with humans, animals, vegetation, and minerals so that we can further align our lives on Earth with the greater cycles of the planets and the universal truth. He is an author, teacher, counselor, and conference organizer, and he currently acts as president of the Organization for Professional Astrology, also known as OPA. Okay, question for all of you out there before we get started. How many of you are professional astrologers or wanting to become professional astrologers? Please chat that in. We'd love to hear from you. You know how we love to engage with you throughout these Astrology Hub TV episodes. So please send that in. Okay, Maurice.
Hello.
Hi. It's great to have you back here at Astrology Hub. We always love having you and are just so honored to have you here today. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and also giving space for this important topic.
It really is. It really is. And I truly, I live it every day. So I get to experience how powerful it is when we can do this when we can do this well, and how so many people are waiting for quality astrology. They're waiting for it. They're hungry for it. So to have more astrologers understanding how to effectively get the message out is really important.
Absolutely. And happy eclipse to everyone. I think just like we rely on our clocks, to regulate our lives, to direct and plan ahead, if we could educate the whole world about the cosmic clock, imagine, how far we could go and how many crises we could avoid. So the world, if we may begin with a statement about marketing and about becoming an astrologer, one of the things I want to say is the world needs more qualified astrologers. And that's where, OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, is really investing a lot of effort, not only for professionals, but anyone who wants quality content, because we run the danger as we live in a time where so many things are so easily accessible online, um, to dilute the content of our studies, of our practice. So OPA is one of the organizations that really, tries to educate people about the need to remain, to have integrity and to really have strong ethical guidelines when we practice.
So yes, it's very important, and it's the same. Like in the health arena, something happens in your body, and you Google it, and you're hit with all this fear and all this content that, as the consumer of content, we also have to be very discerning, but also as the disseminators of content, we have to be very discerning. So yes, and it seems to me like if more astrologers are putting quality content out into the world, that the fear-based and all those things that we were talking about before we came online, it kind of quiets that a little bit. It's not, if it's easier to find great information, then that other information won't be as powerful as it can be now.
Agreed. And you refer to, health practices, and you know how well regulated they are, sometimes too regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a thin line between, wanting to have a system that safeguards us and doesn't allow for abuse, and yet allows enough freedom for creativity and so forth. And astrology is still out in the woods. It's still in wild territory. It's not regulated by anything and anyone. And so we enjoy the privilege of having that freedom and not having any kind of supervision. But we end up paying a price for it as well. And as we were talking earlier on, many people can study astrology and they learn the techniques, whether they take a class or they study online, but they don't always have the consulting skills. They don't always have the psychological insight to learn about how to convey that information. And let's face it, we're talking about universal truth. We're talking about something of a really higher order. If we were to really understand what astrology is, it is, I will say, the astrologers are the modern priests. We are interpreting, spiritual knowledge, cosmic knowledge to human language. So it's a very powerful, and it can easily be misused, mishandled. And that's why we're here, to
Yes.
try to navigate this.
Yes.
One of
Okay.
the, just a quick note, OPA is, for example, offering a certification program. And the certification is not about learning astrology per se. So we're not teaching techniques. We are working with people who are already done with their courses. And we spend time with them on 3 modules. One of the modules is called the peer group work, where we meet in small groups and then discuss all the problems we have as practitioners. We speak about, if we had troubles with our client, for example. The second module is about consulting skills. How do you actually work with clients? How do you overcome your own prejudice? How do you convey difficult information? You have a transit in your Pluto in your 12th house. I heard someone say, oh my God, you're going to have 12 years of immense difficulty and nothing's going to work for you. And we're talking about a Pluto transit that's going to last, almost more than a decade. And the last module that we added was astronomy for astrologer with our dear friend Gemini Brett, because we feel that in order to be a professional and to do well, astrologers need to understand a little bit of the astronomy context and answer questions such as, what is the difference between the Western and the Eastern zodiac? And what's this 13th sign about that keeps cropping up, that most scientists know about, but most astrologers have no clue how to answer those questions?
So this event you're talking about with the different modules that you just described is happening when?
So this is called Astrologer. And can I share my slide?
Yes, yes, you can.
Just one moment.
And after we do this, I want to steer the conversation to marketing and why you feel it's so important.
So Astrologer is an event that takes place in Arizona, in Tucson, and it's divided in 2 parts. The first part is the marketing, which is October 4th to 7th. And the second part is the certification process that I just mentioned from October 7 to 10.
Can you do full screen, Maurice?
Yeah. You mean the
Yeah,
slide?
like show the, yeah. There you go. Thank you.
So we have an excellent faculty, including really prominent astrologers. We have Roy Gillett, who is the president of the United Kingdom's Astrology Association. We have Lauren Albanian, who is leading NORWAC in Seattle. We have Kay Taylor and Gemini Bread that we just mentioned. So really wonderful, knowledgeable experts in their fields. And so that's the second part that I begin with the second part, because I wanted to emphasize how important that supervision is. And people can go to the OPA website. There's a tab about certification and find out more about this. And now to the marketing. So as you say, this is something you find is important because one of the problems we meet, we all love astrology. We all know, the amazing things it can do. And as we said, it's a tool that can prevent crisis. It's a tool that, we can prevent diseases. We can be more careful about things. We can better understand why today is such an important day. There's an eclipse. It's almost the skies are opening. There's a portal. And this is why you're feeling, maybe overwhelmed or maybe excited. Emotions are very strong. So we all can agree on this side. But what is difficult is that many people give up on astrology because they believe they cannot sustain themselves financially being astrologers. And today, Uranus, the planet Uranus that rules astrology, entered Taurus recently. So it's about bringing this celestial knowledge to a practical, earthy level. And let's talk about money. Let's unite spirit with matter. Because if we don't, then astrology is going to remain what many people perceive it to be professional. It's going to be a retirement plan. The thing you do once you have time and the kids are out of the house. And that's the majority of people see it as, on a professional level, they see it either as a hobby or a retirement plan. And we want to encourage people to think differently because, as I said earlier, the world does need more qualified astrologers. And it shouldn't be your second profession only or your retirement plan. It can be the first profession you use and you go for.
Maurice, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. So we started Astrology Hub about 3 years ago, and I didn't know much about the astrology field, and the reality for astrologers. And I remember talking to many astrologers in the very beginning who said, well, astrologers don't make any money. We're broke, we're poor, and I was like, wow. I mean, does it have to be that way? Because it doesn't seem like it would have to be that way. So I think that this is a prevalent thought form in the field, and it's so inspiring to see you hitting it head on, and especially you. I'm looking at this roster for your event, and the combined years of experience between all of you must be, hundreds and hundreds. And so, obviously you all have been able to have success and meet, spirit with the physical world and make this something that sustains you as a human being and fulfills your spirit and uplifts other people's spirits.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It is possible, many more today than ever before because of the internet. The internet has really opened many doors for astrology. I can speak for myself. Many of my clients are not local, and through the internet we can reach, many parts of the world and social media. But that's not the only thing. One of the things that we touched on is that poverty mentality. Somehow that split between spirit and matter is tied to the fact that if you do something spiritual, you shouldn't be charging for it. And you're greedy if you do. And obviously this is not a sustainable approach. The second thing is that many astrologers are still in the closet. And how are you going to attract clients if you don't admit that you like astrology, that it's working for you? And if you are an educated person, if you are someone who has credential, it does astrology service to say, yes, I do practice, I do believe in it, it works for me, you should try it. Instead, many people are very shy about it, and it doesn't serve them, and it doesn't serve the profession. It's surprising to see how, when you actually come out of the closet and you say, I actually do this, how many clients come to you. That's how I started, because initially, if we talk about tips to become a professional astrologer, initially I had no plans to be an astrologer. I was involved in art and music, but I was studying and I loved it. And I told everyone, I'm doing this, I'm learning. And people wanted readings. It's like, oh, you do this? I mean, tell me, here's my chart. And they wanted to pay me, and then from there, they wanted me to teach them. So just by sharing what I was doing, and sharing what it can do, that was already the best marketing. Just plain honesty. It's the best marketing technique.
You know, a couple things come up when you're talking about this. That requires courage, and that requires, for a lot of us, a journey, a very personal, individual journey of living what we talk about in astrology, which is understanding your divine blueprint and then expressing it fully. And that's not easy, you know, because when we do that, there's the chance that we're going to get hurt. There's a certain level of vulnerability in there. I think we have, you know, centuries and centuries of lineage in which we were persecuted for being who we are. And so I don't know that our cellular memory has caught up with the fact that we don't have to actually be afraid for our lives anymore. And actually, I had an interview with Erin Sullivan the other day, and she was part of the group that in the 80s helped to make astrology legal in the United States. So we don't have to worry about going to jail anymore for practicing astrology or reading charts, and so, or having a company like Astrology Hub. So we're in a different time, and I can see that there would be a lot of empowerment for a lot of people to really step in and own their passion, whether it's astrology or something else that the rest of society doesn't necessarily get. There's a lot of empowerment for us as humans to just step into that and say, look, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I love. And like you said, new people come into the arena when we do that.
Yes, and I think the great thing is we made some progress, and like you say, we're not going to jail anymore for it, at least not in this part of the world. But the level of judgment, whether that comes from the religion and the science, is tremendous. You know, this is one thing we can be proud of, is that we are uniting science and religion by having them both hate us. So they have a common enemy, so to speak, which is astrology, and largely because it's misunderstood. So I can understand people who come from religious families and they're perceived as, you know, worshiping the devil because they read the stars, or if they come from a scientific background, they're going to be ridiculed for liking this. But this is where education comes in. This is where you have brilliant people, and I spoke with David Cochran on one occasion, who is a researcher and a software developer, and he was speaking about exactly that, and how being, you know, in a social event surrounded by academic and scientific people, when he actually mentioned that he was doing astrology, people were asking him questions. So they were, you know, giving him the look, so to speak, but at the same time, they also inquired. And that's where a conversation can begin and prejudice, you know, be eliminated. And I want to share some of the slides to show some statistics.
Yes.
So this is, you know, the question here is, what is the age group of people who are practicing astrology? And you see, you know, for a pool of 230 people, only 2 were between 18 and 28, instead of 124 were 57 and older, which also means their second Saturn return. So they got to astrology after their second Saturn return, and the greater majority also from age 41, which is, you know, that midlife transition time where people may choose to change profession. Another, you know, 82, which consists between 40 and older. It's 90% of the practitioners. So that's what I was referring to earlier on. The other question is, do you rely primarily on the income of your astrology practice to sustain yourself and grow? So we had About 30% who were practicing who said yes, which is very good, and 70% weren't. So once again, the great majority of people don't rely solely on astrology for an income. And that hurts the profession, because if you're not doing that only, it means you're going to invest less and so forth. Now, think about the fact that people can spend thousands of, of dollars on an education on psychology or IT. And why do they do that? Because they know that once they complete their degree, the chances are that they're going to get a job that will give this back. Their investment is going to be worth it. But if you don't have faith that you're going to make a living from astrology, you're not going to invest in an education either. You're going to want the freebies online because you're not having returns. So changing that is very important, because it also means we're going to have better schools, we're going to have better books, we're going to have a richer culture. The third slide here is about what is intimidating about being a practicing astrologer. And the majority, which is 44%, says difficulty making a living. That's intimidating. I don't know if I can make that. Then the lack of credibility, people don't take it seriously. It is considered blasphemous, only 2. But I think that is not something to be neglected. I think it's quite prevalent, that sense of demonizing astrology.
It definitely is, Maurice. Every time we bring that topic up, there's a whole host of comments from people in the audience who have experienced that directly from family members or friends. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people are, the sense that even if people are coming to astrology, and I can say that as a practitioner, when people come for a reading, whether because they heard it from a friend and they got recommendation, they don't know what to ask. They don't know what's going to happen in this reading. Is it a crystal ball? Can I, just sit there and listen? Should I ask questions? So there's not a lot of education. People don't really know what it is and what it can do. And, that's, the main thing. So I just want to say that if people want to know a little more about this, they can get this book, The Professional Astrologer, which was published by OPA. You can get it on Amazon, and you'll see there are many more questions to the survey, and then some practical 14 astrologers writing about how to build a successful practice. And from this, we're also creating this event, which is called Astrologer, and that's where the professionals are coming. And what we're going to focus on is marketing for part 1, which is not just, oh, you should be on Facebook and be visible. It's also providing practical tools about how to write. We have a writing workshop. People, may have valuable information, but they write it awkwardly. They, put too many details. They tire their readers. So a writing workshop by Arlen Wise and her son Julian, who is an editor of major publications, a book by, for Metallica. He's out there and he's quite gifted.
That's amazing. Maurice, I just want to add, in terms of copywriting, I would rank that in the at least top 3 of the most important function of my organization, because the ability to effectively communicate and connect with the audience is everything. If you can't do that, then it doesn't matter how great your content is or how much you have to be able to communicate that effectively and in a way that that people can understand.
Yes, And the second part is building a website. You know, I spent 2 hours, an hour and a half with someone who built a website, and she was very happy with it. And I started going, you know, page to page and looking at the way things were displayed and the images she used. And at the end of the session, we realized so many things needed a complete reorientation. And it's not so much that you need to redesign it, but there were, you know, she was starting her comments with many negative sentences. And the word death, you know, was right on her menu because she did some research on death charts. Things like, you know, minor things that you think are under control that are not even part of the greater design can be a deal breaker, you know, when a client visits your website. So we're going to focus on how to make your practice lucrative, how to attract new clients, website and branding, and then software training. You know, we all have our solar fire and you know, Astro Gold and all of that, but just like our brain, we probably only use 20% of the software and are not aware of all the features. And as professionals, there's a lot we're missing. You know, some research functions, transit graphs, things that are not rocket science, but you just need to know about them, and it makes a difference. Now, the writing workshop, we talked about it, and one of the really wonderful opportunity we're providing is teaching about public speaking. So people who would like to enter the public speaking circuit and, you know, speak at big conferences such as UAC, which we just had in Chicago, or, you know, the NCJR, the OPA, NORWAC, we are offering a scholarship. And this scholarship is about, first of all, identifying promising astrologers who really are passionate and do a good work, a good job. You know, they have a good website, they show promise. So we are going to grant a monetary prize of $2,500 or $1,500, depending on what we assess is appropriate. And if there's more than one, we're going to give more than one scholarship. The other thing we're going to offer is slots at those big conferences. So if someone is a promising astrologer and has potential, we have arranged and coordinated with conference organizers to place people who come to this event, to place them in these conferences. So they get integrated, they gain visibility, and they are basically having the opportunity to showcase their work. So that's part of, you know, people who come to this event are not just spending money attending another event. They are actually learning to make more money, doing something they love, and we open doors for them. You know, we want to really be this jumping board where they can take it to the next level.
That's so great. Really exciting, Maurice. It's an incredible program that you've put together. Is there anything else you want to share about the event itself?
Well, just a quick note, it's going to take place in Tucson, Arizona. So it's a beautiful resort.
And how many people can come?
It's a limited event because we're expecting about 50 people. Mm-hmm. The reason is that we want to keep it small to give personal attention, but also the pool of people who want, who are ready and who are thinking about becoming astrologers, or those who are already astrologers, but they need more clients and they need that boost. is not immense. So we're expecting about 50 people, and I think that's going to be a wonderful platform. This is the second time we're doing this. The first time was 3 years ago in Georgia, in Athens, Georgia. And it was really amazing. And, we really felt like people were getting a lot out of it. And that's why we're continuing to do it. Now, interestingly, another thing we're focusing on, maybe you're going to also like this one, is that everyone, for their branding, will also have a photo shoot, a professional photo shoot. Because so many astrologers don't pay attention to that. And you see their picture on a conference website, and their image is blurred, or they look the other way, or they have, dark glasses and a hat on. And that's not helping them. So that's another layer of this work.
That's brilliant. And it really, I mean, I just have to say, in the beginning, as a consumer of astrology, looking for astrologers or looking for content, I remember going into it going, God, why does it all look the same? And why doesn't any of it look good? Like it does, it's not beautiful. It's not
Exactly.
well done. And that doesn't help the perception of astrology. It just doesn't. It keeps it in that realm of like something that you don't take very seriously.
And something you don't invest in.
Right. Definitely not.
And that's the other thing is, if it's spiritual, then it shouldn't be sensual. You know what I mean? It's, again, the earth and sky issue. So I agree. I mean, at OPA, we put a lot of emphasis on graphics and on even the location, our retreat, because we have also a retreat that we're organizing every second year or so. And our retreat, the last time, was in Zion National Park, which means that not only are you going to learn astrology, but you're also in nature. You're also in an aesthetic, supportive environment, and not in a basement of a hotel, in those recycled air room. And it's not always possible. Like an event like UAC, so many people, you can't always find the best locations. You need to be central. But when you do have the opportunity, it's great to enrich the profession, enrich the culture.
Yes.
So this is just a quick other slide about the judges and what they will be looking for. So you see, for the scholarship, what are you going to submit? People can submit an article. People can present a 15-minute public presentation. They can submit a website, a research that they're going to, something they're working on. And so anything that we see that really shows that they're interested and that they do have potential. So that's how we're going to assess who's going to get the scholarship. And we're looking for passion, authenticity, and here, Roy is detailing it a little bit more, an arresting impact from the beginning, sustained, visual, music for the video, website needs to be well structured. He gives many different tips, and people can find those guidelines also on our website and in our magazine, The Career Astrologer.
That is very exciting. I love that you're providing these opportunities for, it's probably all the Capricorn in me, but having those like, wow, there's something I can work towards and strive for. And I think it's really neat that you're doing that.
And, the goodie, the cherry on the top is that now that you're here and you're listening to this, we're offering a significant discount for just 3 days for those who are, listening to this talk, Astrology Hub. So the price is now listed at $400 for part one instead of $485, which includes your photo shoot, and it includes 4 days of conference with all the trainings: video training, software training, marketing training, branding training. So once again, it's an investment that will hopefully generate income for you. And so if you go to the YOPA website, go to the store, that's where you're going to be able to see the discount on for the next 3 days. And of course, you can go to the event page and find out more about the schedule and the details.
Maurice, do you mind moving the screen up so we could see a little bit more the discount? So what you're saying is that for Astrology Hub audience, any of you watching this right now, that instead of $485, we can get the event for $400, which is a 15% discount. And we can take advantage of that between now and July 15th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to show the, how it looks on the website.
Mm-hmm. And so, but accommodations and flights and all that is separate, but for the actual conference itself, this is the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
But they're getting a lot for that. There's a 4-day event, right?
It's a 4-day event from the 4th to the 7th. And that includes also the scholarship process. So this is the page. You go to the OPA website, go to store and events, and you'll see here it's selected on special Astrology Hub discount. It's $330 plus the photo shoot is $70, so it amounts to $400.
Wow. That's great. Thank you so much for offering that to our audience. I'm so pleased, and I hope that people will take advantage of it. Alexa has a question. Are you offering an opportunity to watch these seminars if one can't attend?
We hope we will. It's not yet guaranteed. I believe that at least some of them will be possible, but consider that there's some of these meetings are held in a small mentorship groups. So it's not just a classroom where everyone meets, and these things are discussed. It's also done on a conversation basis where the participant will be with a mentor and they will speak about where they're at, what needs to happen in their own career, what is their blockage. So these are things that cannot be publicly shared, both logistically and for privacy purposes. So some of it, we will likely make available as a recording, but not all of it. And of course, for the scholarship, people would need to attend.
Right. Okay. And the audition for that scholarship or the consideration for that scholarship will happen at the event?
Yes.
Okay.
So the last day, which is going to be the Sunday, the 7th, that's when we have the panel, and each of the candidates will showcase whatever they want to submit, and the decision will be made right there.
Great. Okay. And we brought up something earlier that I just wanted to come back to. When people feel guilt or are afraid that they're being greedy by making money on something that is spiritual, what do you say to them? How do you address that?
Yeah, I get this occasionally. What I say is that money is energy and that money needs to circulate. So we do have to be careful about not being greedy, because we do see that there is abuse. So I agree with them to some extent, but this is true for any profession. What I'm really not, I would say, agreeing with is that spirituality cannot be associated with money, because it's as if the material dimension is necessarily profane. The material dimension is low, it's dirty, it's corrupting, and it's not true. You know, money is about an exchange. And if I make a good living, like I say, I'm going to provide better courses. I'm going to spend more time writing. It's going to benefit the whole. And I think that's the important thing we need to remember, is that I'm not just storing it in my bank account and looking at it. I'm reinvesting it, and it serves the collective. It serves the profession.
Absolutely. And I mean, back in the day when priests, you know, they were supported by the community. They were supported. They didn't have to think about.
But you know, that's the funny thing. Even today, you have many priests, and recently there was an article I read about some kind of Buddhist monastery, and so the monks would never request a donation because, you know, money's dirty. But if you did not make a donation, you know, you would be frowned upon. That double hypocrisy of, no, we're not talking money, but we're really expecting it at the same time. You know, we need to get over this. It's hurting us, that split. The same way, you know, sexuality is not spiritual, money is not spiritual. All these Taurian, earthy attributes and themes are somewhat demonized or seen as inferior, and that's the marriage of Uranus in Taurus. You know, we hope that's going to create a change for that.
It is. It's already happening. I know it. Maurice, since I have you, can I take advantage of this opportunity? Please. It's for the benefit of all. And if you have any more questions about the event, please chat them in, and I'll make sure and ask Maurice as well. But can we talk about the upcoming eclipse season just for a few minutes? I love the way that you talk about eclipses, love your perspective, and I know that people, it's, you know, top of mind right now for so many people. Can you tell us your perspective on what this eclipse season is about for all of us?
Yes, absolutely. And first of all, we are now, you know, in the eye of the storm, so to speak. The eclipse, the first eclipse, is taking place a few hours from now at 20 degrees Cancer, and it's opposing Pluto in Capricorn at 20 degrees. So it's interesting that we're having this conversation today, because it is about this Cancer Capricorn, about, you know, coming out of the womb and being, you know, grown up, so to speak, moving from the Cancer to the Capricorn. And the next eclipse will be on July 27th. It's going to be the total lunar eclipse at 4 degrees Aquarius Leo. And the particularity of this eclipse is that it will conjunct Mars retrograde in Aquarius. As some of you may know, this is the rarest retrograde in Aquarius. It happens the least. And Mars is going to be the closest to the Earth it has been since 2003, and then 60,000 years back. So you can already look at Mars in the sky, see how bright it is. But the eclipse is right on it. So what I find fascinating about these eclipses is that not only is the event itself so powerful because it is a portal, it is a time, think about the eclipse as the lights go out, we're blindfolded, and we have no control. But something larger than us takes over. And whatever planet is on that portal, in this case Mars, this is what is going to give the tone to the eclipse. Now, what is Mars retrograde about? You will see during Mars retrograde cycles that people decide to change their professional life. Many people decide to quit their job and do something else. We don't often think of Mars as professionally oriented, but it is actually one of the important themes of a Mars retrograde cycle is professional reorientation. Now, if you are accepting not to be in control and allow the universe to work through you during this time, it can be challenging because the universe, just like we see with the volcano Pele, she gives and she takes. So things may be taken from you, you know, the positions and the possessions and what you were attached to, but it also creates amazing breakthroughs. And because it is in Aquarius and Leo Aquarius, this again may have to do with leadership, with personal development, immense creativity. I see a lot of downloads as we see the portal open and these Aquarian channels are activated. So there's a lot of new events, community events, new ideas. I feel it's going to be such a fertile time of this realization and downloads. So that's definitely something to look forward to. On the other hand, because Mars is Mars, we can also expect, political tension and people rebelling. Generally, a strong sense of rebellion, because both Mars in Aquarius and Mars retrograde are rebellious by nature. So, people quitting, people not wanting to do certain things, wanting to go their solo way. You're going to have a lot of that separation as part of the need to recreate your path. So be careful, and yet at the same time enjoy the ride. It's definitely about riding a very fast car, driving a fast car.
Wow. Okay. All right, everybody, fasten your seatbelts, right? Okay, so Mike asked a question. An idea that I have explored as a college educator for over 25 years, training students entering the counseling field. I have been interested in a curriculum for astrologers in learning techniques in counseling and interviewing. What plans does OPA have in providing this type of training?
Learning techniques in,
counseling and, the very important skills that you touched on earlier in being in that counseling setting, being able to speak to people.
What we do is twofold, through the peer group work. We have one of the days, we have 4 to 5 astrologers sit in a room in small groups, and they do readings to each other. And this way, you experience it 3 ways. You are the one who gives the reading, you are the one receiving a reading, and you are someone watching other people having a reading. So right there, you already learn so much from seeing other people's style and their errors, as well as their, where they're good. So that's one thing that's extremely valuable. The other thing is we have a 3-day program on consulting skills where, the very focus is on language, on and also on working on our prejudice, because as astrologer, we all think we're so enlightened and that we don't have any prejudice. We are, universal beings, but if we scratch the surface, we see that, oh, this client rubs me the wrong way, and oh, he's a Republican. I don't do well with Republicans, or whatever our personal issues are, and we work on these things. So that's a 3-day immersion to polish those skills and really elevate the profession.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Maurice, I want to thank you very much for the generous offer that you are making to the Astrology Hub community. I really appreciate that. I know we have a lot of people out there who are aspiring to become professional astrologers, studying to become professional astrologers, and there's a lot of professional astrologers out there as well. So thank you very much for making this accessible to them. And is there anything else that you wanted to say before we close out?
Well, thank you, and thanks to Astrology Hub. I think you're doing a wonderful job with this and with your programs, and in keeping that quality and also the spiritual aspect of astrology. And of course, I want to encourage people to really think deeply about this higher calling, to take astrology seriously. And not everybody is meant to be an astrologer, just like any other profession. But if you do think it's for you, and you feel called and you want to help people, do it well. Don't skip steps. Just like any other profession requires a proper training, go through these channels and support yourself and other people, because the better you are, the more you will be stable financially, the more you'll be able to sustain yourself and nourish all of us.
Absolutely. It's a very Saturn and Capricorn message for all of us, right? Okay. So just a reminder for all of you, we do have that free webinar happening tomorrow with Donna Woodwell, the 3 reasons you should be looking at eclipses in your chart. We're going to go over in detail why this summer's 3 eclipses are so important. So elaborating on what Maurice touched on today and what you can do to work with them personally. That is tomorrow, Friday, July 13th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern. The link to get your free seat is below and also above this video. Maurice, thank you so much. It is always such a pleasure to connect with you. I really appreciate your time. Wishing you the best of luck on this event. And I hope lots of Astrology Hub members will take advantage of it. So everybody check that out. The link for the event is also above the video and in the chat. So you can get more details, more information, and hopefully be heading out to Arizona in October.
It's the perfect season.
It would be the perfect season to be. Yeah, perfect season to be in Arizona. All right. We are here live, same time, same place next week. Please join us. If you do not get live alerts when we go live, you can sign up for those. There's links flying everywhere, but there's links for that as well. And I want to thank you for tuning into Astrology Hub TV and for making astrology a part of your life. I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.